The massive holographic display cast an eerie blue glow across the War Council chamber aboard the Keftar flagship. Admiral Zexthal's 6 eyes focused intently on the streaming data while his chitinous claws tapped nervously against the command console. Around the circular table, representatives from 12 different alien species sat in stunned silence as the intelligence reports continued to flow in. "These numbers cannot be accurate," growled Commander Vrakthas, his reptilian features twisted in disbelief. The Saurian military leader had conquered 17 star systems in his career, but the data before them defied everything he understood about warfare. A single human soldier with a confirmed kill count of 843 enemy combatants? Impossible. Fleet Admiral Zexthal adjusted his breathing apparatus, the mechanical wheeze echoing through the chamber as he processed the information. His species, the Keftar, had dominated space warfare for over 2 millennia. They prided themselves on their tactical superiority and biological advantages. Each Keftar warrior possessed natural armor plating, enhanced reflexes, and could survive in environments that would kill most other species within minutes. "The reports are verified through multiple independent sources," announced Dr. Salandra, the Council's chief intelligence analyst. Her crystalline form shimmered as she manipulated the holographic interface with delicate energy tendrils. Cross-referenced with battlefield recordings, enemy casualty reports, and witness testimonies from survivors on both sides. The Vraxi delegate, a massive insectoid creature with mandibles that could snap steel, clicked disapprovingly. "Our warriors undergo genetic enhancement from birth. We are bred for combat, trained from childhood, and equipped with the finest technology in the galaxy. How can these soft-skinned mammals achieve such results?" Admiral Zexthal had been asking himself the same question for weeks. The Galactic Coalition had initially dismissed humanity as a minor threat when Earth first made contact 18 months ago. Humans appeared fragile, with thin skin that tore easily, limited natural weapons, and no obvious biological advantages. Their technology seemed primitive compared to the advanced civilizations that dominated this sector of space. The war had begun over a territorial dispute in the Centauri system. Earth's colonial expansion had inadvertently encroached on Keftar mining operations. What should have been a simple matter of relocating the human settlements had escalated when Earth refused to abandon their colonies. The coalition had expected a swift victory that would serve as an example to other emerging species. Instead, they found themselves locked in the most brutal conflict any of them had experienced in generations. "Show them the Kepler station recordings," Dr. Salandra suggested, her voice carrying an unusual tremor. The holographic display shifted to show grainy security footage from a space station under siege. Coalition forces had overwhelmed the facility's defenses and were conducting room-to-room clearing operations. Standard procedure called for minimal casualties among defending forces to facilitate interrogation and intelligence gathering. The footage showed a single human figure moving through the station's corridors. Marine Sergeant Jake Mitchell, according to the identification tags. Average height for his species, perhaps 75 kilograms in weight. He carried what appeared to be a primitive chemical projectile weapon and wore basic combat armor that looked inadequate by galactic standards. What happened next defied military logic. The human moved with a fluidity that seemed impossible for his species. When 3 Keftar assault troops rounded a corner, expecting to find cowering defenders, they instead encountered something that challenged their understanding of combat dynamics. The human's weapon fired rapidly, each shot precisely placed despite the apparent limitations of chemical propulsion technology. But it was not just the accuracy that disturbed the watching council members. It was the way the human adapted to each new threat, using the environment to his advantage in ways their tactical computers had never predicted. He turned simple maintenance equipment into weapons, used the station's artificial gravity as a tactical advantage, and demonstrated a level of spatial awareness that their enhanced warriors struggled to match. "Pause there," commanded Admiral Zexthal, pointing at a specific frame where the human had somehow predicted an ambush from 3 different directions simultaneously. "How did he know where our forces would emerge?" "Analysis suggests an intuitive understanding of 3-dimensional tactical flow that exceeds our computer modeling capabilities," Dr. Salandra replied. "This individual human demonstrated pattern recognition and predictive analysis that rivals our most advanced artificial intelligence systems." Commander Vrakthas leaned forward, his yellow eyes fixed on the frozen image. "Our warriors trained for decades to achieve such battlefield awareness. This human appears to be improvising." "Continue the recording," Admiral Zexthal ordered, though part of him dreaded what would come next. The footage resumed, showing the humans' relentless advance through the station. Coalition casualties mounted steadily. These were not lucky shots or favorable circumstances. This was systematic elimination of superior forces by what should have been an inferior opponent. The most disturbing aspect was the humans' apparent emotional state throughout the engagement. While coalition warriors relied on either cold calculation or battle fury to drive their combat effectiveness, this human seemed to maintain perfect equilibrium. He showed no signs of panic, rage, or fear. Instead, there was a focused determination that remained constant regardless of the tactical situation. The psychological profiles are equally troubling, Dr. Salandra continued, manipulating the display to show brain scan data. Humans demonstrate remarkable emotional regulation under extreme stress. While our species require either chemical enhancement or extensive mental conditioning to achieve such stability, humans appear to possess this capability naturally. The Nixarian representative, a slug-like creature with photosynthetic skin, pulsed a sickly green color. This suggests evolutionary adaptation to prolonged conflict scenarios. How long has this species been engaged in warfare? Preliminary archaeological analysis indicates continuous warfare throughout their recorded history, Dr. Salandra replied. Approximately 12,000 years of documented military conflict, with evidence suggesting even longer periods of organized violence. An uncomfortable silence settled over the chamber. Most coalition species had achieved peace on their homeworlds within a few centuries of developing advanced technology. The concept of a species that had been fighting wars for millennia while simultaneously developing space travel capabilities was deeply unsettling. Admiral Zexthal accessed his personal data files, reviewing intelligence reports from other sectors where human forces had been encountered. The pattern was disturbingly consistent. Individual humans routinely achieved kill ratios that should have been mathematically impossible given their apparent physical limitations. There must be some form of technological enhancement we have not detected, insisted Commander Vrakthas. Hidden implants, chemical augmentation, some form of advanced weaponry disguised as primitive equipment. Extensive post-mortem analysis of human casualties reveals no artificial enhancements, Dr. Salandra responded. What you see is baseline human performance without technological augmentation. The implications were staggering. If unenhanced humans could achieve such results against coalition forces, what would happen if they began incorporating galactic technology into their military doctrine? The thought sent ripples of unease through the assembled commanders. What about their command structure? Asked the hegemony delegate, a tall, pale humanoid with oversized cranial capacity. Perhaps their tactical superiority lies in their leadership methodology. The holographic display shifted to show intercepted communications between human military units. The casual professionalism in their voices was immediately apparent, even through the translation matrix. There was no rigid hierarchy demanding absolute obedience, no complex ritual protocols that delayed decision-making. Instead, human forces seemed to operate with a fluid command structure that adapted to changing circumstances in real time. Note the delegation of tactical authority to lower-ranking individuals. Dr. Salandra highlighted specific communication exchanges. Human military doctrine appears to emphasize individual initiative and independent decision-making at every level of command. This was perhaps the most alien aspect of human warfare from the coalition perspective. Most galactic military forces relied on centralized command structures with clearly defined chains of authority. Orders flowed from the top down, and junior officers were expected to execute commands without question. Human forces operated differently. Squad leaders made strategic decisions that would typically require fleet-level authorization in coalition forces. Individual soldiers modified mission parameters based on changing tactical situations. The entire structure seemed chaotic by galactic standards, yet it consistently produced superior results. Admiral Zexthal found himself questioning fundamental assumptions about military organization that his species had held for thousands of years. How could such apparent chaos prove more effective than their carefully refined command protocols? Show us the Titan colony engagement, he commanded, referring to one of the largest battles fought since the conflict began. The display showed a massive ground assault involving nearly 50,000 coalition troops against a human defensive position. Intelligence had indicated approximately 3,000 human defenders, mostly civilian colonists with limited military training. The attack should have been a simple matter of overwhelming force applied against an inadequate defense. Instead, the footage showed a masterclass in defensive warfare that left coalition commanders scrambling to understand what had gone wrong. The humans had transformed their colony into an interconnected fortress using nothing more than mining equipment and construction materials. Every building, every street, every piece of infrastructure had been converted into defensive positions that maximized the effectiveness of their limited numbers. But it was not just the physical preparations that impressed the watching council members. It was the way the defenders coordinated their response without apparent central command. Small groups of humans operated independently while somehow maintaining perfect synchronization with the overall defensive strategy. This level of coordination should require quantum communication networks, observed the synthetic representative, a mechanical intelligence that spoke through harmonic vibrations. Yet we detect no such technology. Humans appear to possess an intuitive understanding of collective behavior that our behavioral specialists cannot adequately explain, Dr. Salandra replied. They demonstrate emergent intelligence properties when operating in groups. The recording continued, showing the gradual erosion of coalition forces despite their overwhelming numerical and technological advantages. Human defenders seemed to anticipate every tactical maneuver, countering strategies before they could be fully implemented. Admiral Zexthal paused the display when it reached a particularly disturbing sequence. A single human sniper had eliminated 17 coalition soldiers from an impossible range using what appeared to be a simple projectile weapon. The precision was extraordinary, but what troubled him more was the psychological impact on coalition forces. After the 17th casualty, an entire battalion of Keftar warriors had refused to advance across open ground. These were soldiers who had faced plasma cannons and antimatter weapons without flinching. Yet somehow, the threat of a single human with a primitive rifle had induced genuine fear in some of the galaxy's most experienced combat veterans. Fear, he murmured, more to himself than to the assembled council. They are teaching us to fear them. Dr. Salandra nodded grimly. Psychological warfare appears to be an integral component of human military doctrine. They understand that defeating the enemy's will to fight is often more effective than simply destroying their physical capabilities. The concept was not entirely foreign to coalition forces, but humans seem to have elevated psychological manipulation to an art form. They did not simply attempt to break enemy morale through superior firepower or shocking tactics. Instead, they created an atmosphere of inevitable defeat that seemed to permeate every engagement. What is their actual casualty rate? Commander Vrakthas asked, though he suspected he would not like the answer. Human military casualties are running approximately 1/15 of coalition losses, Dr. Salandra replied. For every human killed in action, we lose an average of 15 coalition soldiers. The silence that followed was deafening. Every species represented in the chamber had built their military reputation on superior casualty ratios against inferior opponents. The idea that humans, with their apparent technological and biological disadvantages, could achieve such results challenged everything they understood about warfare. Admiral Zexthal stood slowly, his artificial breathing apparatus cycling automatically as he processed the implications. The coalition had begun this conflict expecting a quick demonstration of their superiority. Instead, they were facing the possibility that they had encountered a species that might fundamentally alter the balance of power in this sector of space. The question that haunted him, and which he could see reflected in the expressions of his fellow council members, was simple yet terrifying. If a single human soldier could achieve such devastating results, what would happen when Earth's full military potential was brought to bear? The emergency session had stretched through 3 galactic standard rotations, with council members taking turns presenting increasingly disturbing intelligence reports. Dr. Salandra manipulated the holographic interface, bringing up detailed biological analysis data that made several delegates shift uncomfortably in their specialized seating arrangements. The human circulatory system operates on principles that initially appeared primitive, she began, highlighting a 3-dimensional anatomical model. However, closer examination reveals remarkable efficiency under stress conditions. Their cardiovascular performance actually improves during combat situations due to adrenaline response mechanisms. Commander Vrakthas studied the biological data with growing unease. His own species required extensive cybernetic enhancement to achieve similar performance levels. The Saurians had spent millennia perfecting genetic modifications that increased reaction times and muscle efficiency, yet these baseline humans seemed to possess comparable capabilities naturally. Their bone density is significantly higher than galactic averages for bipedal species, Dr. Salandra continued. Combined with muscle fiber composition that emphasizes both endurance and explosive power, humans can sustain combat effectiveness far longer than our tactical computers predicted. Admiral Zexthal accessed his personal combat records, comparing them with the human performance metrics. In his 200 years of military service, he had never encountered a species that could maintain peak fighting capability for extended periods without technological assistance. Keftar warriors, despite their natural armor and enhanced physiology, typically required rest cycles every few hours during intensive operations. Humans apparently could fight continuously for days without significant degradation in performance. "Show them the Marathon Station siege," Admiral Zexthal commanded, referring to an engagement that had become legendary among coalition forces for all the wrong reasons. A holographic display shifted to show a mining facility deep in contested space. Coalition intelligence had indicated minimal human presence, perhaps 50 civilian workers and a small security detail. The strategic value was limited, but High Command wanted to demonstrate that no human outpost was beyond their reach. The siege had lasted 6 standard days. What should have been a simple occupation had turned into a grinding battle of attrition that cost the coalition over 800 casualties. The footage showed human defenders operating with mechanical precision hour after hour, day after day, without apparent fatigue. Coalition forces had to rotate their assault teams every few hours as exhaustion set in, but the humans seemed immune to the psychological and physical stress that wore down even the most experienced galactic warriors. Observe their tactical adaptation patterns. Dr. Salandra highlighted specific sequences where human defenders modified their strategies in real time. They demonstrate an ability to learn from enemy tactics and develop countermeasures faster than our combat algorithms can predict. The Vraxi delegate clicked his mandibles in frustration. Our artificial intelligence systems require extensive data analysis to achieve similar tactical flexibility. How do they process battlefield information so efficiently? Neural analysis suggests humans utilize distributed processing capabilities that we are only beginning to understand, Dr. Salandra replied. Each individual brain operates multiple parallel thought processes simultaneously, allowing for rapid pattern recognition and creative problem-solving under extreme stress. This revelation was perhaps more disturbing than the physical capabilities. Coalition species had developed sophisticated computer systems to handle complex tactical calculations because biological brains were generally limited to sequential processing. The idea that humans could naturally perform parallel analysis while under fire challenged fundamental assumptions about intelligence and consciousness. There is another factor we must consider, Admiral Zexthal said, manipulating the display to show communication intercepts from human forces. Their motivational psychology differs significantly from galactic norms. The audio files played fragments of human military communications during various engagements. What struck the council members immediately was the casual nature of these exchanges. Humans facing overwhelming odds spoke with the same tone they might use to discuss weather conditions. Contact front, 3 clicks north. Looks like a battalion-strength probe. Copy that. Johnson, take your squad around the east flank. Williams, set up the heavy weapons on that ridgeline. Roger. Hey, Rodriguez, remember to save some of the good rations for after we wrap this up. The lack of fear or desperation in their voices was unsettling. Coalition warriors typically displayed either rigid discipline or barely controlled aggression when facing superior forces. Humans seemed genuinely unconcerned by tactical disadvantages that would cause most species to retreat or surrender. They appear to view overwhelming odds as an interesting challenge rather than a cause for concern, Dr. Salandra observed. Psychological profiles suggest humans actually perform better when facing apparently impossible situations. Commander Vrakthas reviewed the audio files multiple times, trying to understand the implications. This suggests they have evolutionary experience with survival scenarios that other species would consider hopeless. Precisely, Dr. Salandra confirmed, bringing up historical data about Earth's geological and climatic history. Human evolution occurred during multiple extinction-level events. Ice ages, volcanic catastrophes, asteroid impacts, and climate changes that wiped out most other species on their planet. Only the most adaptable and resilient genetic lines survived to contribute to the modern human genome. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Most coalition species had evolved on worlds with relatively stable conditions. They had developed sophisticated technologies and complex social structures precisely because their environments were predictable enough to support long-term planning and development. Humans had evolved under completely different pressures. Constant environmental threats had selected for adaptability, resilience, and the ability to improvise solutions to unprecedented challenges. Their entire species had been forged by circumstances that would have exterminated most galactic civilizations. This explains their apparent comfort with tactical uncertainty, Admiral Zexthal mused. They have genetic memories of surviving impossible situations. Dr. Salandra nodded, manipulating the display to show genetic analysis data. Human DNA contains extensive redundancy and error correction mechanisms that allow for rapid adaptation to new environments and stressors. They are essentially a species designed by evolution to survive anything. The Nixarian representative pulsed a deep amber color, indicating extreme agitation. If their baseline capabilities are this extraordinary, what happens when they begin incorporating our technology? It was the question everyone had been avoiding. Humans were already demonstrating superior combat effectiveness with primitive equipment. The thought of them gaining access to plasma weapons, energy shields, and advanced tactical systems was genuinely terrifying. Intelligence reports suggest they have begun reverse engineering captured coalition technology, Dr. Salandra admitted reluctantly. Preliminary analysis indicates they are adapting our designs faster than our own engineers can develop countermeasures. Admiral Zexthal brought up classified reports from the Technical Intelligence Division. Human engineers were apparently studying damaged coalition equipment with an efficiency that bordered on the supernatural. Devices that required years of specialized education for coalition technicians to understand were being analyzed and improved by humans within days. They have modified captured Kethtar plasma rifles to increase power output by 40% while reducing weight, he read from the intelligence summary. Improvement was achieved using techniques our weapons designers never considered. The implications were staggering. Coalition technology had been refined over millennia by some of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. The idea that humans could make meaningful improvements so quickly suggested an intuitive understanding of physical principles that challenged galactic assumptions about technological development. Show them the Proxima incident, Dr. Salandra suggested, though her crystalline form dimmed noticeably as she accessed the files. The holographic display showed footage from what had been intended as a demonstration of coalition overwhelming force. A human research vessel had been detected in neutral space, apparently conducting scientific observations. High Command had decided to make an example by destroying the ship with minimal effort. A full squadron of Keftar heavy cruisers had been dispatched to eliminate a single unarmed research vessel. The engagement should have lasted minutes. Instead, the footage showed the human ship executing maneuvers that defied conventional understanding of physics and engineering. Using nothing more than their primitive fusion drive and creative applications of momentum transfer, the human vessel had managed to avoid destruction for over 2 hours while simultaneously disabling 3 coalition warships. Their pilots somehow used gravitational effects from nearby planetary bodies to achieve velocity changes that should have been impossible, Dr. Salandra explained. The mathematics involved required calculations that our navigation computers struggled to process. The human research vessel had ultimately been destroyed, but not before demonstrating spatial awareness and piloting skills that exceeded anything in coalition databases. The pilot had apparently performed complex three-dimensional calculations in real time while under fire, using environmental factors as tactical advantages. The pilot's body was recovered, Admiral Zexthal added grimly. Post-mortem analysis revealed no cybernetic enhancement, no artificial intelligence assistance, no technological augmentation of any kind. Everything you just witnessed was accomplished by baseline human cognitive capabilities. Several council members exchanged uneasy glances. The coalition had achieved spaceflight through sophisticated computer systems that handled the complex mathematics required for interstellar navigation. Most biological brains simply lacked the processing power for such calculations. Humans apparently did not require such assistance. There is one more factor that we must address, Dr. Salandra said, her voice carrying an unusual note of concern. Their cultural approach to warfare differs fundamentally from galactic norms. The display shifted to show intercepted communications between human military units and civilian populations. What the translations revealed was deeply unsettling from the coalition perspective. Human civilians were not passive victims waiting for military protection. Instead, entire populations were actively involved in resistance efforts, providing intelligence, supplies, and tactical support to military forces. Children were being taught basic combat skills alongside traditional education. Elderly humans were contributing to defensive preparations with the same enthusiasm as trained soldiers. They have created a society where the distinction between military and civilian becomes meaningless during conflict, Dr. Salandra explained. Every human is a potential combatant. This was completely alien to coalition military doctrine. Galactic warfare typically involved professional military forces engaging each other while civilian populations remained neutral. The concept of an entire species united in resistance efforts was both strategically and ethically challenging. Their manufacturing capabilities reflect this cultural integration, she continued, showing industrial analysis data. Civilian factories can be converted to military production within hours rather than months. Their entire technological infrastructure is designed for rapid militarization. Admiral Zexthal found himself questioning whether the coalition was actually fighting a military force or an entire civilization. The distinction was important because it determined what kind of victory was even theoretically possible. If every human world contained millions of potential soldiers, if their civilian infrastructure could instantly become military production facilities, if their cultural values emphasized resistance over surrender, then conventional occupation strategies would be completely ineffective. What are their projected reinforcement capabilities? Commander Vrakthas asked, though his tone suggested he expected bad news. Human population on Earth exceeds 8 billion individuals, Dr. Salandra replied. Conservative estimates suggest they could field military forces numbering in the hundreds of millions without significantly impacting their civilian infrastructure. The number was incomprehensible from the coalition perspective. Most galactic civilizations maintained military forces numbering in the thousands or tens of thousands. The idea of a species that could deploy armies in the millions while maintaining full industrial production was strategically overwhelming. They have not yet fully mobilized, Dr. Salandra added, making the situation even more alarming. Current intelligence estimates suggest we are facing less than 1% of their potential military capacity. Admiral Zexthal felt the weight of that revelation settling over the chamber like a gravity field. The coalition had committed substantial resources to what they expected would be a minor conflict. Instead, they were apparently facing a species that treated this as a limited engagement while holding massive reserves in readiness. The question was no longer whether individual humans were exceptional warriors. The question was whether the coalition could survive a conflict with a species that combined individual combat excellence with virtually unlimited population resources and rapid technological adaptation. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Zexthal began to wonder if the coalition had made a fundamental strategic error. They had declared war on what appeared to be a minor species. Instead, they might have challenged the most dangerous civilization the galaxy had ever produced. The holographic projector hummed quietly as it displayed the most classified intelligence reports in coalition archives. Admiral Zexthal had cleared the chamber of all but the highest-ranking council members, and even they seemed reluctant to confront what the data revealed about their ongoing war with humanity. Before we proceed with strategic recommendations, the council must review individual case studies, Dr. Salandra announced, her crystalline form shifting to a deeper blue spectrum that indicated severe stress. The patterns we have identified require context to be properly understood. She manipulated the interface, bringing up personnel files that made several delegates lean back from the table. The first profile showed a young human female, barely past adolescence by galactic standards, standing in standard military dress with a calm expression that seemed unremarkable until one read the accompanying statistics. Corporal Sarah Chen, age 19 standard years, Dr. Salandra read. Confirmed eliminations, 412 coalition personnel across 17 separate engagements. Commander Vrakthas studied the image with growing disbelief. The human appeared fragile even by their species standards, yet the numbers indicated combat effectiveness that exceeded most veteran coalition officers. What is her military background? 6 months of basic training followed by immediate deployment to frontier positions, Dr. Salandra replied. No specialized combat enhancement, no advanced tactical education, no cybernetic augmentation. Standard human military preparation. The implications were staggering. Coalition warriors typically required years of intensive training, genetic modification, and technological enhancement to achieve even basic combat competency. This human had apparently reached extraordinary effectiveness levels with minimal preparation. Show us the Vega Station engagement, Admiral Zexthal commanded, referring to what had become known as the impossible defense among coalition intelligence circles. The holographic display shifted to show tactical recordings from a small research facility that had been targeted for occupation. Intelligence indicated 12 human defenders against a full battalion of coalition assault troops. Standard doctrine called for overwhelming force to minimize coalition casualties while demonstrating superior capabilities. The reality had been dramatically different. Corporal Chen appeared in the recordings, moving through the station's corridors with fluid efficiency that seemed to defy human physiology. She carried standard Earth military equipment, primitive by galactic standards, yet achieved results that challenged fundamental assumptions about combat effectiveness. Observe her spatial awareness. Dr. Salandra highlighted specific sequences where the human seemed to anticipate enemy movements through solid barriers. She demonstrates predictive capabilities that exceed our most advanced sensor systems. The footage showed Chen positioning herself at intersection points moments before coalition forces arrived. She seemed to know exactly when and where enemies would appear, allowing her to engage targets with devastating precision while avoiding return fire. This suggests either precognitive abilities or tactical analysis capabilities that approach artificial intelligence levels, Dr. Salandra continued. However, neural scans show no unusual brain activity patterns compared to baseline human norms. Admiral Zexthal paused the recording at a moment when Chen had somehow detected an ambush from 3 different directions simultaneously. The human had responded by using explosive charges to collapse part of the station's structure, channeling coalition forces into a kill zone she had prepared minutes earlier. The level of 3-dimensional thinking required for such tactical planning should be beyond biological capability, he observed. Yet she appears to be improvising these strategies in real time. The recording continued, showing Chen's methodical elimination of superior forces through a combination of marksmanship, tactical positioning, and environmental manipulation. What disturbed the watching council members most was her apparent emotional state throughout the engagement. While coalition warriors relied on either cold calculation or battle fury to achieve peak performance, Chen seemed to maintain perfect psychological balance. She showed no signs of stress, fear, or excitement. Instead, there was a focused determination that remained constant regardless of tactical circumstances. The psychological profiles are equally disturbing, Dr. Salandra added, bringing up brain scan data. Humans maintain optimal cognitive function under extreme stress conditions that would cause complete mental breakdown in most galactic species. The synthetic representative processed this information through harmonic vibrations that conveyed deep concern. This suggests evolutionary adaptation to continuous threat environments. Their neural architecture appears optimized for decision-making under lethal pressure. Dr. Salandra nodded, bringing up evolutionary analysis data that painted a disturbing picture of human development. Earth's ecosystem has been characterized by constant predation pressure for millions of years. Human ancestors survived by developing cognitive capabilities that treat mortal danger as a normal operating condition. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Coalition species had generally evolved in environments where intelligence provided advantages in resource acquisition and social coordination. Humans had apparently evolved intelligence as a survival mechanism against continuous threats of violent death. Show them the Kepler defense recordings, Admiral Zexthal ordered, though he suspected the council members were already reaching their limits for disturbing revelations. The holographic display shifted to show footage from what military historians would later call the most tactically impossible defensive action in recorded galactic history. A single human Marine, Staff Sergeant Marcus Rodriguez, had held a critical supply depot against an entire coalition regiment for over 18 hours. The numbers defied military logic. One soldier against nearly 3,000 highly trained alien warriors, equipped with advanced technology and overwhelming firepower advantages. The engagement should have lasted minutes. Instead, Rodriguez had inflicted massive casualties while successfully preventing coalition forces from securing their objective. The tactical recordings showed combat performance that challenged basic understanding of physics and battlefield dynamics. Note his ammunition management. Dr. Salandra highlighted specific sequences where Rodriguez achieved multiple eliminations with minimal expenditure of resources. He demonstrates efficiency ratios that exceed theoretical maximums for chemical projectile weapons. The footage showed the human moving through the depot's storage areas with supernatural awareness of enemy positions. He seemed to know exactly when coalition forces would attempt flanking maneuvers, where they would establish overwatch positions, and how they would coordinate their assault patterns. More disturbing was his use of the environment as a weapon system. Rodriguez had transformed industrial equipment into improvised explosive devices, used the facility's atmospheric systems to create tactical advantages, and somehow turned the coalition's superior numbers against them through careful manipulation of engagement geometry. The casualty ratios are unprecedented in galactic military history, Dr. Salandra announced. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez eliminated 237 coalition personnel while suffering only minor wounds. Commander Vrakthas studied the tactical analysis with growing alarm. His own species prided themselves on individual combat prowess that had dominated galactic battlefields for centuries. The idea that a single human could achieve results that exceeded entire Saurian companies was professionally and personally devastating. "What is his military background?" the Vraxi delegate asked, clicking his mandibles in nervous anticipation. 2 years of standard human military service, Dr. Salandra replied. "No special forces training, no advanced tactical education, no genetic enhancement or cybernetic augmentation. Standard infantry preparation." The revelation sent ripples of unease through the assembled council members. Coalition special forces typically required decades of training, extensive technological enhancement, and careful genetic selection to achieve even basic competency. Humans apparently reached extraordinary effectiveness levels through routine military preparation. "There is another factor that distinguishes human warfare from galactic norms," Dr. Salandra continued, bringing up communication intercepts from various battlefields. "Their tactical coordination appears to operate through mechanisms we cannot detect or understand." The recording showed human military units operating with perfect synchronization despite having no apparent communication systems. Small groups scattered across vast battlefields seemed to coordinate their actions with precision that should have required quantum-encrypted communication networks. "They demonstrate collective intelligence capabilities that exceed our theoretical models," she explained. "Individual humans appear to share tactical awareness through unknown mechanisms." Admiral Zexthal had been puzzling over this phenomenon for weeks. Coalition forces relied on sophisticated communication systems to coordinate complex operations. Humans seemed to achieve superior coordination through methods that their technology could not detect. "Perhaps they utilize biological communication systems we have not yet identified," suggested the hegemony delegate, though his tone indicated limited confidence in the hypothesis. "Extensive analysis reveals no unusual electromagnetic emissions, no quantum entanglement signatures, no detectable information transfer mechanisms," Dr. Salandra replied. "Yet the coordination persists even when humans are isolated from all technological communication systems." The implications were unsettling. If humans could share tactical information through unknown biological processes, it would explain their extraordinary battlefield effectiveness while raising disturbing questions about their evolutionary development. "Show them the Saturn ring engagement," Admiral Zexthal commanded, referring to what coalition strategists considered the most tactically brilliant human victory of the war. The holographic display showed a space battle involving a small human fleet against superior coalition forces. What made the engagement remarkable was not just the human victory, but the method by which it had been achieved. Human vessels had used the gravitational effects of Saturn's ring system to execute maneuvers that defied conventional understanding of space combat. They had somehow predicted coalition tactical responses with such accuracy that the entire engagement resembled a carefully choreographed demonstration rather than an actual battle. The level of coordination required for these maneuvers should be impossible without artificial intelligence assistance, Dr. Salandra explained. Yet scans of captured human vessels reveal no advanced computer systems capable of such calculations. The footage showed human ships moving in perfect formation through complex gravitational fields while simultaneously engaging multiple targets. The precision required for such operations exceeded the capabilities of coalition navigation computers, yet humans had achieved it using apparently primitive technology. Their pilots appear to intuitively understand multi-dimensional physics in ways that our most advanced scientists struggle to comprehend, she continued. This suggests cognitive capabilities that challenge our fundamental understanding of biological intelligence. Admiral Zexthal found himself questioning whether the coalition was fighting a military force or confronting something entirely outside their experience. Human combat capabilities seemed to transcend the normal limitations of biological intelligence, yet they showed no signs of technological enhancement. "There is one final case study that the Council must review," Dr. Salandra announced, her crystalline form dimming to indicate extreme reluctance to proceed. She brought up personnel files for Lieutenant Colonel James Harrison, a human officer whose combat record had become legendary among coalition intelligence analysts. The statistics associated with his name were so extraordinary that several council members initially assumed they represented data corruption. Confirmed eliminations, 1,417 coalition personnel across 43 separate engagements, Dr. Salandra read. No recorded defeats, no tactical failures, no situations where human forces under his command failed to achieve their objectives. The numbers were incomprehensible from the coalition perspective. Even their most successful military leaders had experienced occasional tactical setbacks. The idea of a commander who had never lost a battle challenged fundamental assumptions about warfare and probability. "Show us the Titan colony defense," Admiral Zexthal ordered, though part of him dreaded what the recordings would reveal. The holographic display showed what should have been the definitive demonstration of coalition military superiority. A massive assault involving over 100,000 coalition personnel against a human colony defended by fewer than 5,000 Marines under Harrison's command. The engagement had lasted 3 days. When it ended, coalition forces had withdrawn in complete defeat, having lost nearly half their assault force without achieving any strategic objectives. The tactical recordings showed military genius that transcended normal understanding of battlefield dynamics. Harrison had somehow predicted every coalition strategy, countered every tactical advantage, and turned every apparent weakness into a devastating trap. He demonstrates an understanding of large-scale battlefield dynamics that rivals our most advanced tactical computers, Dr. Salandra observed. Yet he appears to be making these decisions through intuitive processes rather than analytical calculation. The footage showed Harrison moving among his troops with calm confidence, making tactical adjustments that seemed impossible given the information available to him. He appeared to know exactly how coalition forces would respond to various situations, allowing him to prepare countermeasures in advance. More disturbing was the effect he had on other humans under his command. Coalition forces had observed significant improvement in human performance when Harrison was present, suggesting leadership capabilities that enhanced the already extraordinary combat effectiveness of individual Marines. The psychological impact on coalition forces has been equally significant, Dr. Salandra added. Simply knowing that Harrison is present on a battlefield has caused measurable degradation in coalition tactical performance. Admiral Zexthal understood the implications all too well. Fear was becoming a significant factor in coalition military calculations, which was unprecedented in galactic warfare. The reputation of individual human commanders was beginning to influence strategic planning at the highest levels. As the council session drew toward its conclusion, Admiral Zexthal found himself confronting a reality that challenged everything he had believed about warfare, intelligence, and galactic civilization. Humans were not simply exceptional warriors. They represented something entirely outside coalition experience, a species that had evolved capabilities that transcended normal biological limitations. The question was no longer whether the coalition could win this war. The question was whether they could survive contact with a civilization that had redefined what was possible. The emergency session had now stretched through 5 galactic standard rotations, and Admiral Zexthal could sense the growing desperation among the council members. What had begun as a tactical analysis had evolved into something far more disturbing, a fundamental reassessment of humanity's place in galactic civilization. Dr. Salandra manipulated the holographic interface one final time, bringing up the most classified intelligence reports in coalition archives. Her crystalline form had shifted to the darkest blue spectrum, indicating stress levels that approached her species' psychological limits. Before the council makes its final recommendations, there is one last revelation that must be shared, she announced, her harmonic voice carrying an unusual tremor. Our deep space reconnaissance has detected something that changes the strategic situation completely. The holographic display shifted to show long-range sensor data from the Sol system. What the images revealed sent a collective shudder of alarm through the assembled delegates. Earth's orbital space was filled with construction activity on a scale that defied comprehension. Massive shipyards were under construction around every major planet and moon. Industrial facilities that dwarfed anything in coalition space were being assembled with efficiency that suggested technological capabilities far beyond what humans had previously demonstrated. Intelligence estimates suggest that humans have increased their industrial output by over 3,000% since hostilities began, Dr. Salandra reported. They have mobilized their entire civilization for war production in less than 2 standard years. Admiral Zexthal studied the reconnaissance data with growing alarm. Coalition civilizations typically required decades to achieve significant increases in military production. The idea that humans could transform their entire industrial base in such a short time frame suggested organizational capabilities that exceeded anything in galactic records. How many vessels are they constructing? Commander Vrakthas asked, though his tone indicated he expected devastating news. Conservative estimates suggest a minimum of 50,000 combat vessels currently under construction, Dr. Salandra replied. With production rates accelerating exponentially as new facilities come online. The number was strategically overwhelming. The coalition's combined fleet strength numbered approximately 12,000 vessels accumulated over centuries of military development. Humans were apparently preparing to field a navy larger than the entire Galactic Alliance within a matter of years. There is more, Dr. Salandra continued, bringing up detailed analysis of human ship designs. They are not simply copying coalition technology. Instead, they appear to have developed completely original design philosophies that optimize for combat effectiveness. The holographic display showed vessel schematics that challenged conventional understanding of starship engineering. Human designs emphasized speed, maneuverability, and firepower distribution patterns that maximize tactical flexibility while minimizing vulnerability to established coalition weapons systems. Their engineering approaches suggest an intuitive understanding of combat dynamics that our designers struggle to match, she explained. They have identified weaknesses in coalition vessel design that our own engineers never recognized. Admiral Zexthal found himself confronting the terrifying possibility that humans might not simply match coalition military capabilities, but exceed them through superior tactical understanding and engineering innovation. The species that had already demonstrated extraordinary individual combat effectiveness was apparently scaling those capabilities to industrial levels. "Show them the intelligence reports from captured human personnel," he commanded, though he suspected the revelations would only worsen the strategic picture. Dr. Salandra brought up interrogation transcripts that had puzzled coalition intelligence analysts for months. Human prisoners demonstrated psychological profiles that challenged understanding of motivation and loyalty under extreme circumstances. Note their responses to standard interrogation techniques. She highlighted specific exchanges where humans had maintained operational security despite facing severe consequences. They appear immune to psychological pressure that would break most galactic species. The transcript showed humans enduring interrogation methods that typically guaranteed information extraction within hours. Instead of providing intelligence, they had maintained perfect discipline while somehow communicating false information that led coalition forces into carefully prepared ambushes. They demonstrate collective loyalty mechanisms that exceed anything in our psychological databases, Dr. Salandra explained. Individual humans appear willing to sacrifice themselves for strategic advantages that benefit their species as a whole. This revelation was perhaps more disturbing than their combat capabilities. Coalition civilizations relied on individual self-preservation instincts that made prisoners useful sources of tactical intelligence. Humans seem to operate according to completely different psychological principles that prioritized group survival over individual welfare. There are reports of humans voluntarily choosing death rather than providing information that might endanger other humans, she continued. This level of species loyalty is unprecedented in galactic records. Admiral Zexthal reviewed the interrogation files, trying to understand the implications. If humans could not be broken through conventional methods, if their prisoners provided no useful intelligence, if their entire species was unified in resistance efforts, then occupation strategies became essentially impossible. "What about their technological development rates?" asked the synthetic representative, processing information through harmonic frequencies that conveyed deep concern. "Perhaps the most alarming aspect of our intelligence gathering," Dr. Salandra replied, bringing up technical analysis reports that made several council members physically recoil. "Humans demonstrate learning capabilities that exceed our theoretical maximums for biological intelligence." The display showed captured coalition technology that had been modified by human engineers with improvements that challenged fundamental understanding of the equipment involved. Weapons systems that represented centuries of galactic development had been enhanced within days of falling into human hands. They have modified captured plasma rifles to achieve 40% power increases while reducing weight and energy consumption, she read from technical reports. Improvements that our own weapons designers consider theoretically impossible. The implications were staggering. Coalition technology represented the accumulated knowledge of dozens of advanced civilizations refined over millennia. The idea that humans could make meaningful improvements so quickly suggested cognitive capabilities that transcended normal biological limitations. They appear to intuitively understand physical principles that our scientists require decades of study to comprehend, Dr. Salandra continued. This suggests either hidden technological assistance or intelligence levels that redefine our understanding of biological consciousness. Admiral Zexthal brought up classified reports from his own intelligence division, adding context that made the situation even more alarming. Long-range reconnaissance indicates that humans have begun constructing vessels using design principles that we cannot identify through any known technological framework. The holographic display showed fuzzy images of human shipyards where construction techniques seemed to operate outside established understanding of materials science and engineering. Vessels were being assembled using methods that appeared to violate basic physical laws. They may have achieved technological breakthroughs that place them beyond our current military capabilities, he admitted, the words carrying implications that sent ripples of fear through the chamber. Dr. Salandra brought up the final set of intelligence reports, information so classified that accessing it required authorization from every member of the Coalition High Command. There is one last factor that the Council must consider before making strategic recommendations. The display showed deep space sensor data from monitoring stations throughout Coalition territory. What the readings revealed challenged fundamental assumptions about human expansion capabilities and strategic intentions. Our sensors have detected human exploration vessels in over 200 star systems beyond their official territorial claims, she announced. They are expanding their presence throughout this sector of space at rates that exceed our fastest exploration capabilities. The number was strategically devastating. Coalition expansion had been carefully managed over centuries to avoid conflicts between member species and maintain resource allocation balance. Humans were apparently colonizing space at rates that would bring them into contact with dozens of galactic civilizations within years rather than decades. Intelligence suggests they have developed faster-than-light travel capabilities that exceed our own by significant margins, Dr. Salandra continued. This would explain their rapid expansion and superior tactical mobility in military engagements. Admiral Zexthal felt the weight of strategic reality settling over the chamber like a gravitational field. The Coalition had assumed technological superiority based on their advanced understanding of galactic science. If humans had achieved breakthrough capabilities in fundamental areas like faster-than-light travel, then every strategic calculation required complete revision. What are our options? Commander Vrakthas asked, though his tone suggested he already suspected the answer. Dr. Salandra brought up strategic analysis models that painted a picture of inevitable Coalition defeat across every possible scenario. Military action against Earth appears to have zero probability of success based on current intelligence. The models showed that humans could field military forces that exceeded Coalition capabilities by orders of magnitude. Their technological development rates suggested they would achieve overwhelming superiority within years. Their expansion patterns indicated they would dominate this sector of space regardless of Coalition resistance. Continued hostilities would result in complete destruction of Coalition military forces with minimal impact on human strategic capabilities, she continued. They have evolved beyond the point where conventional galactic military doctrine remains relevant. Admiral Zexthal found himself confronting the most difficult decision of his military career. The Coalition had initiated this conflict expecting to demonstrate their superiority over an emerging species. Instead, they had discovered a civilization that redefined what was possible. There is only one strategic option that offers survival for Coalition civilizations, Dr. Salandra announced, her crystalline form shifting to colors that indicated profound reluctance to proceed. Immediate cessation of hostilities followed by diplomatic initiatives aimed at establishing peaceful coexistence. The word surrender hung unspoken in the chamber, but every council member understood the implications. The Coalition, which had dominated this sector of space for millennia, was being forced to acknowledge a superior civilization that had emerged seemingly from nowhere. They must be offered territory, resources, and recognition as the dominant military power in this region, she continued. Any other approach risks complete annihilation of Coalition member species. Admiral Zexthal stood slowly, his breathing apparatus cycling automatically as he processed the magnitude of what they were discussing. The Coalition had spent centuries building their reputation as the supreme galactic military force. That reputation was about to be permanently shattered. The Council is unanimous in its assessment, he asked, though he could see the answer in the expressions of his fellow members. One by one, the representatives of 12 different species acknowledged what their intelligence analysis had revealed. Humanity represented something entirely outside their experience, a civilization that had evolved capabilities that transcended normal biological and technological limitations. Then, we must contact Earth immediately, Admiral Zexthal announced. And hope that they are more interested in peace than in demonstrating their military superiority. As the council session concluded, the assembled delegates faced the sobering reality that their galaxy had fundamentally changed. They had encountered a species that challenged every assumption about intelligence, warfare, and technological development. The question of a single human marine's kill count had revealed something far more significant than military statistics. It had unveiled a civilization that would reshape galactic politics for millennia to come. The war that was supposed to establish coalition dominance had instead introduced them to their new overlords. In the depths of space, human shipyards continued their unprecedented expansion while Earth's population prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. They had proven their point about individual capabilities. Now they were ready to demonstrate what they could achieve as a unified species. The galaxy would never be the same. The Emergency Council had reached its conclusion, but Admiral Zexthal suspected that for the Coalition, this was not an ending. It was the beginning of a new era where humanity would define the rules, and everyone else would learn to adapt or face extinction. The numbers that had started this investigation, the impossible kill counts of individual human soldiers, had revealed a truth that would haunt galactic civilizations for generations. They had not simply encountered superior warriors. They had discovered their replacements at the top of the cosmic food chain. As the chamber emptied and delegates returned to their respective fleets to deliver the news of impending surrender, one final thought occurred to Admiral Zexthal. In all their analysis of human military capabilities, they had focused on what individual soldiers could accomplish. They had never seriously considered what would happen when billions of such individuals decided to work together toward a common goal. That question, he realized, would soon be answered whether the Coalition wanted to know or not. The age of human dominance was about to begin.